Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, eXp Realty family and real estate industry friends. Happy Friday. My name is Curtis Dixon. I want to welcome you to eXp Realty's Level Up live stream. We go live 3 days a week to bring you what you need to build yourself, build your business, and build a better life. Today, what we're about to do, if you're joining us for the first time, is what we call light work, your weekly energy practice. We're going to bring you 30 minutes of motivation, inspiration, actionable information, and amazing special guests. If you're a regular, you know what we're going to do first. We're going to start off with your morning mindset prompts. So let's get these prompts up on the screen. First thing I want to do is just ask you to pause whatever you're doing for a minute. Take a quick breath in, hold it for a second or two, let it out. And I want you to find an area of focus in your life where you're spending time, energy, effort, but you realize maybe it's not bringing you the results that you're looking for. That return on investment is not there. The ROI, is there an area of focus that you maybe need to re-examine today? And if you're bold enough, brave enough, share it with us in the chat box, live in eXp World, live in the comment stream on YouTube. Really use those chat boxes today, everybody, because we have added something new to this show, which is the guest that you love, because you're going to love him today, and you're going to love every guest we bring you. We like to put them on the hot seat at the end of the show. So if you ask any questions throughout the show, I'll bring them back to the guest and we'll put them on the hot seat at the end, and we'll just rapid fire some answers and information and coaching and ideas and bring you some value before we wrap today. But back to the mindset prompts. First one, hopefully you found an area of focus. The second one is we're going to get into a little sneak peek. We're going to talk habits today. So I want you to think back. Maybe it's a habit you have right now, or maybe you've had it in the past and it's not as present with you anymore. But what is one habit that you attribute success in your life to? Maybe it's a routine or a ritual. Maybe it's a health practice, a wellness practice, spiritual. Maybe it's a business practice. Maybe it's your prospecting. Maybe it's your financial approach. Whatever it is, what's one habit that you know is really successful for you in your life? All right, everybody, those are your morning mindset prompts. We do those every single Friday. This is the 30 minutes prior to the big Friday agent meeting. The Friday meeting coming up here at the top of the hour is going to be a great one, but you get to hang out with an amazing special guest today. We're going to talk about focus. We're going to talk about connection, and we're going to end with what I think you're going to want more and more and more of, and that is the science of habits. And we're going to end there because today's special guest, Andy Rosas, out of Miami, Florida, is a realtor habit expert. He's a professional speaker, world-renowned trainer and coach, and habits is where he loves to spend his time. And he's got content on habits all over social media. We decided we're going to partner to bring you more content on realtor habits, but we're going to leave you at the end wanting more. Let's welcome my man, Andy Rosas.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Thank
Andy,
you so
good
much for
morning.
having
Happy
me, man.
Friday. I love the energy, man. Thank you for showing up
Yo,
here, ready to gift some power to this audience. And I gave you a fair warning. I'm a little vulnerable today. I'm feeling a little raw emotionally. There's a lot going on. I bet so many of us out there, man. So we're just going to jump in and have a candid conversation.
let's do it. Let's
Tell
get
us.
raw. Let's get
Let's
in
do.
it. Let's
So
go.
okay. So tell us what's going on with you right now. Where's your focus? What's happening in your life? Take us to obstacles or people or work. Just so people can get to know you a little bit.
Just a little bit overall. Well, right now I'm in a big shift spiritually in my life. Right now, if you knew me and been following me for however many years, you've noticed and followed my content because I like to post when things are going great, when things are going bad. I like to string along everyone on my journey. I don't want to be known as the motivational speaker and everything's awesome all the time.
That's not true, right?
Big time. I suffered from anxiety 2 years ago. I got professional help. I was just worst time of my life 2 years ago.
Wow.
And that's what triggered my spiritual journey that I've been on for the past 2 years. So I would say my spiritual journey is what the biggest thing. That's the main focus right now in my life right now. That's what's going on. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on being there. And, thank you for sharing. First off, I want to acknowledge the help that you just said you got, right? Because I have a daughter who was recently diagnosed with ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder. She's young, she's struggling. Wow. And for a couple of years, as attentive parents as we were, my wife and I didn't seek help, right? We read books and we talked to each other, but we didn't go professional help, right? And I think a lot of times in life, like if an emotional pain or a mental pain is going on, we put it off. We just we push it down in the leg, right? And we're just like, and then you said you went and got help. And the second thing I like to point out is when you shifted your focus to help and to healing, you ended up on another journey. I know you're a focus expert in whatever journey anybody's out there on right now. Let's talk focus. Maybe take us back a couple of years, when you were in that pain or wherever it was. What was the focus like then, and how is it very different now? Just talk to us about focus and how it works.
Gotcha. Well, I'm the habit guy, right? Co-founder of the Habit Guys. I teach real estate agents better habits. So everything's habit. So I come from a background of science. I need to see it to believe it. I was a motivational speaker for various companies all across the world. And so that laid out a foundation, which really made me successful from a worldly perspective, right? But it allowed me to only rely on me. So I didn't realize that I was just focusing, on what Andy can do, right?
Right.
And my successes came, it was awesome and it was beautiful. But then 2 years ago when I collapsed emotionally, and I got professional help, that started the journey in making me realize, and it's funny how God works. God uses your pain for your purpose. And in that pain of getting help, it didn't heal me. It helped me getting professional help, especially as a man. It's hard for us to get help. We think we can, especially being a Hispanic male in a household where you're not supposed to cry, right? Suck it up, buttercup type of mentality. Oye, pero ¿qué te pasa? Tú estás loco. No te llora. Right? You don't cry.
What's going on? Are you crazy? That was quick translation, everybody.
Yeah. So the shift, so to answer the question was, I was very me focused. And then with my anxiety, that pain, I literally had nothing else to go to. Honestly, Curtis, I had the money, the success, the relationships. I was going to different substances in my life, and alcohol and drugs and doing different things that were just a symptom of something, right? A reaction to something. And then in that pain, I surrendered myself to God as my last option. That's it. It was literally, I said, all right, this whole Jesus God thing, let me try this out, man. Whatever, And literally, man, from that point on, Curtis, the shift now went from it's not about me anymore and just being vulnerable and surrendering my life to him. And since then, everything has changed, man. That's been the biggest shift, about not making it about you anymore.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you for sharing. And I appreciate your journey that you're on. And, out of respect for the whole audience, I'll share here that we're going to be relatable to Andy's real journey and what he's going on. My ask of every guest is be authentic, be transparent. Andy asked, which I loved. I thought it was just a really cool example of, maybe demonstrating power in the area of like psychological safety and things, just asking what you could bring to this show yesterday. And, you asked about the topic of God and religion, and that's a challenging topic, for any sort of public show or a forum. We're live on YouTube. And what I said to Andy was, be you, bring you, right? And that's what I encourage everybody to do. And also what we're going to do with that topic here, right, is we're going to be respectful of others who may not share a similar belief, who may not want to talk about that or feel comfortable. We're going to create sort of a boundary around this conversation here. So what I'm going to ask Andy is, as we talk about this lens, you have a lens that you're looking through and what's going on in your life. Keep that focus here. And let's help extrapolate how that might relate to somebody who shows up here today thinking about their next sale, or who shows up here today thinking about their day-to-day work, or who shows up here today thinking about their kids. It may not be that spiritual journey, but it's still the journey. And it's a journey that everybody's on, right? And what I want to point out, and this is where I'd love you to take us, just like kind of unpack some of these things. You talked about the focus being on me. And that was a time in your life where maybe you did experience what could be success, right? And I'm going to, I'm going to hit record here for some of our people that aren't with us today, Andy. I'm just going to be able to throw a little something on Instagram or something. But, with Andy Rosas, the habit guy, he's talking about realtor habits, but he's sharing vulnerably like his personal journey. And what he said was, at a time in his life where he was in the most pain, where he had the most anxiety, where he had the most struggle, his focus was on him, on me. And I can relate to that. And there's people in my world, in my life right now, like this minute, that I know are right there, right? They're seeing the world just like through, about them, like for me. And they're experiencing a level of sort of success or achievement or whatever that might feel like where they want to be or what it is. But I also know they're in some deep pain. They're hurting. They're in turmoil internally. And you talked about now being where you are, you're focusing on something greater than you, something different than you, right? And it's putting you in a position. I mean, just look at this smile, look at this vibrance, this energy. It's allowed you to do things probably that you thought you were never going to be able to do or whatever, right? So let's go through the focus shift here a little bit. If somebody's like, raise your hand, if this is you, and don't forget to ask questions here. If you got Andy and you want to talk about some stuff before we get to the end of the show, we'll put him on the hot seat. But you talk about habits and you talk about the science. Take me into like some of the science. Why does this shift in focus work? What are the different connections that are firing in the brain? Like what's happening that makes it better for you on the other side of focusing on yourself?
Gotcha. And by the way, so habits is the key to both things that I do now, right? Where it's habits for real estate agents to get them prospecting and habits on your spiritual journey. So it's both habits, by the way. It's habits, and we'll take a deep dive in that because
I love it.
Habits, and by the way, let's define habits before we start talking about it.
Treat us like we're 6-year-olds, man. I've been saying I'm a healthy 6-year-old boy these days with my sleep. So teach me like I don't know.
Because people come to me and I'm like, how do you expect to change your habits if you don't even know how it works? Okay. Right. Habits is something you've done so often that you don't even know you're doing it, right? You just do it. Great. Over 40% of what we do daily is on autopilot. So, we drive our car, you're checking your emails, you're changing the radio, you're driving, you're running green lights and all that. And you have no idea what you're doing. You get to your destination and you're like, did I just run a red light? How did I get here? Because you're multitasking, you're doing so many different things. That's how strong habits are, right? You just do. But the problem is we don't question our habits because our habits are taking us somewhere right now. Whether you like it or not, we're all building habits right now. Now, the trajectory of those habits, is it giving you fulfillment? Is it giving you more money? Is it giving you that lifestyle? Because if I were to ask you how many times you're prospecting daily, right? What's that trajectory look like? What do those habits look like? If I were to ask you, what's your spiritual practice? What's your gratitude trajectory look like, right? What is your positivity? Because everything's a habit, right? Even the way you're positive, the way you're doing things, it's a habit. It's a skill set you learn. So by definition, that's what it is. Okay. Right? And so understanding habits allows you to release yourself of beating yourself up, Curtis. And the biggest thing we teach in our program is this. Listen, yes, my students make a lot of money in our coaching program. Cool. But it's not about that. It's about being in integrity on the outside end, meaning the inside reflects your outside life, meaning you do what you said you're supposed to do, whether that's have that tough conversation with your son or daughter, right? Like you had one this morning and you're going through yours and you're having that. I want to make sure that I'm pouring into my son and that this internal love is reflected in my external actions. That's integrity, man. You're living in integrity with yourself, and that's what gives you the peace, even in pain. it's giving you peace, right? Because you're acting in congruence. But a lot of pain comes when agents say they're going to prospect, but they don't. And they self-sabotage themselves. And they say, I'm not good enough. Man, here's another day and I didn't do it. Here, I worked on my website, but I didn't call anybody. I worked on my business card and I didn't call anybody, right? That's a very common thing. So the big thing there is living a life. Habits is about trusting yourself and doing what you're supposed to be doing, as opposed to just living in random and relying on motivation. So habits, guys, I'm telling you, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You're just running on autopilot. But now that you know that you are, it's up to you, though, to learn how habits work and slowly start structuring a life in congruence with habits, not against habits. And we can get into how to do that if you want. I can lay out a framework for you, how to do that. But that's what I would say when it comes to that.
So what I want to do, and I apologize for looking away from you and for the screen from everybody, but I want to take a quick peek at the world, EXP world, and our YouTube channel, because I think we have a little fork in the road right here for the next 15 minutes, Andy. We could either go deeper into the framework of habits. We can start to give you the why, the how, the what, the science. And in probably 15 minutes, I don't want to make too bold of a statement, Andy, maybe in 10, you might be able to give them like the first seed of how to add a new habit or break an old habit or something, right? Is it safe to say we could give them enough that they could take away and go to work?
Okay. I'll give you a ton. And at the end, we'll give them free resources as well, Curtis, for being on your show.
All right.
And tuning in.
All right. So plan A, we can take you down some habit building. That's A. Or B, real quick, we can keep going into some of this like underlying stuff that I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about relative to habits. You literally said it's about trusting yourself, right? Like that sounds way different than like normally what you hear about habits, loops, right? We talk about neurons and triggers and rewards and all that stuff. And if anybody out there would rather go like the trust yourself route and the heal yourself route, let me know. So A, we'll get into habit structure, 10 minutes on the timer. We'll give you a little gift this morning. B, we'll go deeper into trust and understand maybe why you don't have these habits yet that you want to have. Maybe you're not aware of them. And that route too, it's going to be on a journey of like beating ourselves up. That's pretty interesting. Self-sabotage. All right. All I needed was one note in the chat box, and we got a couple here coming. People want to go too. People want to go the beat up, trust yourself route, man. So all honesty, I beat myself up for like maybe 6 hours last night. Like had a tough day, tough moment, all kinds of things. And I was asking myself, I was hitting myself. You did this wrong. You missed on this. You should have done this. If you had done this 6 months ago, this would be happening now. And I was right there. And so for anybody who's in that, let's like snap them into awareness for a moment real quick. You're beating yourself up. Pause. Put the gloves down, take them off even for a moment, and let Coach Andy coach us up first on, is there value in beating ourselves up? What happens when we do that? How detrimental is that to all of us? And then let's get into that trust part.
Absolutely. So we need to understand that we are a byproduct of our past. Okay. We all have something inside of us called identity. Identity at the core is what navigates everything you do in life, guys. Identity, okay? And I know you hear this word thrown out there. Right. So according to science, I want to give you 3 levels of change real quick. The outside level is outcome change. Those are the things you want in life. Number 2, like losing weight. I want to make more money this year. Great, awesome things. The second level of change is called process change. That's the things you're going to do to get the things you want, like the new lead generator, right? A new script. A new strategy of the week, whatever. A new LA Fitness membership. I'm going to go do Orange Theory now. Whatever, dude. Great process. But at the core, it's called identity change. Identity change is where your belief system lives and your own belief of what you believe you can or cannot do. That little voice in your head that says, I hate the morning, or I'm a bad parent. I hate this. I'm an extrovert. I'm not like Andy. I'm not like Curtis that I can just get on the camera and talk, and maybe that us being the way we are now is a reflection of an insecurity you have inside, and that little belief level gets triggered and you're like, oh man, look at that. I can't even talk like these guys. And I wish I can prospect like these top producers. And that's identity. That internal dialogue is identity. And we need to focus on changing your identity before we start focusing on results. We live in a world, Curtis, where everyone says, I want to make more money. I want new things. And EXP, we have so many tools and resources to be successful.
Right.
The best tools out here, the best CRMs, the best everything. But yet we still have the same failure rate as every other brokerage out there. So we know it's not a resource problem. It's an identity problem. So the first thing I want everyone to write down is I need to change my identity. So if you're procrastinating, if you're saying you're going to go to the gym, but you don't, if you say you're going to have that tough conversation with your son, but you put that off, this can be a relationship thing too, right, guys? That conversation that you didn't have with your spouse, that one thing you're kind of letting slide by, that you're like, you know what? I'm just going to not say this to him because he's just going to, what's the big deal? Guys, that's identity. That's a belief system that's how you are or not, okay? So identity is running your life or ruining your life. Depends on what train you're on, right? So a lot of you may be asking me, well, how do I change identity? Right? I don't know if you want to get that part now, or do you want me to
you know what? I want to keep going. I want to keep going there. I mean, and I'm going to give everybody a quick heads up.
Just bring it, bro. We're going to go deep.
Let's
I may start crying at any moment, but we're gonna do this, guys. This shit. Sorry for cursing. This stuff is real. Okay, guys. Because if you don't change this, this literally becomes the death of you. Because either way, you're gonna suffer. You're either gonna suffer in the life that you cannot stand, okay, or suffer from doing something new because it's something you haven't done. There's always pain involved. So you choose your pain. So that's why I tell people, let's go down the pain route, that on the other side, there's breakthrough.
Let's go.
Right? Not the pain of staying the same.
That's right.
I know better, but I don't do better. And I just complain and have a victim mentality identity. So you're going to suffer either way. So either way, you're going to suffer. So I might as well suffer and know on the other side, there's peace. There's love. There's abundance. There's those fruits. That's what I'm talking about. So I want everyone to really chime in and go deep here, because habits, people get fluffy with it. We got speakers out there not doing you just got to make the call. You just got to do this. Go to the gym and work out. Yeah, we get it. That you're speaking from outcome and process.
Right. And they already have the identity a lot of times. This is what people don't realize, right? Like, this is what you don't realize, everybody. I'm sitting here and I have a lot of identities where I'm comfortable in, where I can do things and get the outcomes that I want. But I have a few where I have the doubt. I have the disbelief. I don't have the trust in myself. I won't really wear that identity. I won't put it on. And so therefore I stay stuck in the focus on the outcomes and the doing, and it doesn't ever get me anywhere close to where I want to go. It just puts me right back where I started, or some places, sometimes even further behind. And so when I hear you say that, man, what's crazy is everybody up there telling you just do it and do all these things. They are right. They just already have a different identity than you. And they're skipping the part that Andy's taking you to right now, which is you've got to put on that identity, and then you'll do something that'll help you trust that. And you'll do something again, and it builds and builds. So take us there. Let's build some trust. Like, I'm going to pause everybody for a sec. If you're listening to this part already, I want you to just grab like one new picture of an identity that you're dying to be in. Tomorrow, your life would be different if you were who? Pick that right now. Word, name, I don't care. And now let Andy coach you through it. How do we begin to trust that identity? How do we pick up momentum and confidence, my man?
Well, Curtis, I love you, man. I want to give you a big old hug right now.
This is fun. Having fun.
Because you get it. What you just said is true. It's called Guru Island. When someone already has changed their identity and they've become that person, of course, all they say is just go to church. Just do this. Just pick up the phone. Just open up. Just be grateful. Because they've already become that person. So when they do that, their advice is very high level because they already are that person. Right. But when you're trying to teach someone how to get there, that doesn't help them out. That's why we get motivated, but then we don't execute. So how do we change that identity? I want everyone to put in the notes. How do you do it? The way you change your belief system about yourself is by changing your habits. The only way you can change your belief system about yourself is if you change your habits, because habits is evidence you see, evidence of you doing something. Okay. So what I talk about in our presentations is 90% of agents come from an employee background. Okay. So they have an employee identity. What's an employee identity? They collect a check every 2 weeks.
Yep.
They're used to doing something and getting something, right? They're not used to doing something and not getting something. So that's what an employee believes in. That's an identity.
Yep.
Think about it. Everybody, how many years have you had a job working for somebody else? Everyone in the chat, I can't see it. Put how many years you have had a job working for somebody else. And guess what? That's the belief system you've had for 10, 15, 20 years because you have evidence of being an employee. Your habit has made that belief system of an employee solidify. So that's what you're used to. And 99% of us come from employee backgrounds. So evidence, me clocking in, clocking out, having a boss doing something, getting something, it's evidence for 20 years, 10 years. So
that's right.
But an entrepreneur belief system, a top producer belief system, a realtor belief system, it's a different identity. You do something, but you don't get something. We don't do stuff to get stuff. We do. You know how many free webinars and seminars I did before I charged my first coaching session? Yep. I went 7 years without making $1 with the habit, guys, before now where we're at. It's amazing, right? But imagine 7 years not collecting a check. Some agents complain about 2 weeks not closing a deal and they're quitting. You know, they say it doesn't work. So identity right there is like how you got to understand why we're failing. So you need evidence. So you got to change your habits. All right. Now, how do you change your habits? I want to give you guys a simple framework. How do you, and then Curtis, you nailed it. Think of the new identity you want to believe. So if you want to write a mantra, write it down of, I'm going to be a top producer. I'm going to be a prospecting machine. Write down what new identity you want to encompass, like just Curtis just said. That new identity you want. I want to be an authentic, loving woman who's vulnerable. Because maybe some women have walls up and they're just, and men, same thing. Maybe they have their walls up. I want to be a vulnerable male, right? Am I masculine? Whatever that is that you want to be, write that new identity down. Now, you are obviously telling yourself that is not going to help out by itself, right?
Right.
So you need to start creating the habit of that new person. So follow a simple framework. It's 4 steps. You need to start taking action of that new person. So we're talking about prospecting, Curtis. Yep. So what we tell our students is for you to start creating the habit, this new identity of a prospecting machine, you need to do 4 things. You need to make the new behavior. You want to prospect consistently. Okay. So you need to make the new behavioral simple. Okay.
Yep.
And it's got to be like obvious. It's got to be very obvious for you to do. So when you're seeing it, it's got to be something very obvious and actually obvious first. It's got to be presentable right there. So if you make prospecting too difficult, you got to have your phone ready to go, a list of people to call. It's got to be there, locked and loaded, and something simple. Okay. So then you got to take action on it, which is a response, something small. And if you want to just make one call, guys.
One call. One conversation. One thing.
All right. So and from a scientific perspective, it's data, desire, response, reward, in case you needed like some simple framework. So data, desire, response, reward. Yep. Data means you see the contacts on a piece of paper. You got to call those people. Don't go searching for your phone. Then you get distracted. It's got to be written out already. So data.
Yep.
Desire is like, oh, okay, it's one phone call. No big deal. Okay, I can do that. It's not desirable if it's 100 phone calls.
Right. Not for most people. Not for most people. That's a high level habit right there.
Yeah, because it's just too big. Stop.
Right. That's right.
So data, desire. So response is, it needs to be something that's close by. Yep. If your list is somewhere else, you have to log on to your Red X or your Mojo dialer, and it's so many passwords and all that. Yep. It's just too difficult to get to. Mm-hmm. And then also, so data, desire, response, and then you need a reward. You need to reward yourself after you make one call. Okay? You need to do that because your brain, when you pick up your phone, think about it. Your phone does it. When someone text messages you, you look at it, you see who it is. Data is the phone goes off. Desire is, I wonder who texted me. Response is the phone is always close by. It's easy, isn't it? Response. Easy. And then reward is, it's my client. That's who called me. And then dopamine gets released. It feels good. And your brain goes, man, what were you doing before we felt so good? Do it again.
Yep.
So that same framework, guys, we need to implement when it comes to prospecting or anything in your life. So it's got to be something simple to do, fast to do, and reward yourself.
Well, Andy, I'm going to do something simple, fast, that will reward this audience for spending the time with us. If you're just joining us, you're catching the tail end of Light Work, your weekly energy practice, everybody. Andy Rosas, the habit guy, has been on fire for 25 minutes. We're going to give you a link to this video. If you didn't catch the first 15, 20 minutes, go back and watch it build, because we ended on habits. And I hope, Andy, all that data is just leaving them desiring more, right? And now you're like, I need to go deeper. I need more of that. I need to follow that guy on Instagram. I need to take his course. I need to read his book. I need to get his free stuff. You should. And then the beautiful thing is the action is like one click away. Go subscribe to the YouTube, go watch this video, share it with your friends. And that reward will be, they're going to thank you. You're going to have changed someone's life today. I hope you changed yours. I believe you have the power. Today's connection gave you the power to shift your identity and start an entirely new life today. Andy, I want to thank you for your leadership, your contribution, your content, everything you brought today, my man. This was amazing. We're going to go hard out because we got 2 minutes before the Friday agent meeting starts up. Everybody grab a quick cup of coffee or water. Be right back here. I saw Glenn Sanford in the building. He's popping in, Andy. It's going to be great. Thank you, my man, for being on Light Work.
Man. No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me on, Curtis.
See y'all next Friday.
All righty.
Good morning. My name is Russ Lag, and I'm the Regional Director of Growth. Welcome to Friday Fire, the Agent Leadership Summit meeting. Today, we're going to have a conversation starting off with Glenn Sanford to address some of the things that have been going on this week. Glenn feels that as a leader, he should be standing up and standing in the front when things are needing to be addressed. So we're going to be talking with him real quick right off the start so he can have a moment to share his feelings and thoughts this week. And then we're going to be rolling right into a guy named Alex Anderud. If you guys haven't seen Alex, this guy is kind of like the wizard of disc, right? He's taken the DISC assessment and changed the way people look at it, changed the way people see it. His take on it, I love, and his ability to talk you through who are you really and how do you work better with other people is priceless. So I'm super excited to have that conversation. Then I'm going to jump in, talk to Frank Panuto at the end. We're going to be talking about the new EXP Explained that he's been pioneering. I cannot wait for you guys to see the new EXP Explained. Tells people what EXP is all about, and he's got a new way of doing it. And I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to see him at the end. So with that said, let's all move on forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Glenn Sanford. Come on forward, Glenn Sanford. Good morning.
Hey, Russ. Hey, everyone. Good morning. It's thanks again for pulling me up here this morning. This is kind of a tough week. Obviously, many of you have seen some of the news that's been out. Some of you likely read the lawsuit that was filed against two agents. One who we released a few years ago, and this came to light as a potential challenge, and then we actually suspended another agent yesterday based on, I actually read through, and I know many on the leadership team and many others read through the civil complaint, and there were things that I was not aware of being alleged, and things that were there, that the obvious first step as an organization is to distance ourselves from that, pending the outcome of an internal investigation, also pending the outcome of the civil suit. It's a kind of a tough time from the perspective of just seeing this play out the way it has. We took action a few years ago, immediately released one of the agents, when this was coming to a head, and as we were getting internal facts. We've got we have a internal compliance committee that had reviewed the information back then, and the decision was made at that point that we needed to release that agent, and they needed to deal with the issue that they were having to deal with because of actions or alleged actions that they had taken and or participated in. So that's where things stand here this morning. One of the things that I wanted to address specifically was that we do take this stuff seriously. We took it seriously a few years ago, and we're taking it seriously today as well. We do not take sexual assault or even the potential or sexual assault. We take that very seriously, but as a company, we've grown to the largest real estate brokerage, and as the largest real estate brokerage, we also need to put in new processes and paths for how to address these types of issues. So a lot of this has been in the last 48 hours because the press release that was done by the legal firm, along with obviously it being picked up. There's been a lot of stuff in process. So it's been a lot of stuff that we've been working on internally, but we are going to be making a lot more overt. In fact, later on today in Workplace, we're going to be sharing some additional resources, phone numbers, whistleblower hotlines, and then also we're also standing up a task force made up likely exclusively of women to actually help you design processes for us so that we can really address the needs that are unique in competing in what is perceived and probably likely is a fairly male-dominated industry. How do we level the playing field so that you've got the resources and the access and the abilities to have things addressed, changed, etc. That need to, so that you can feel like you can be in places where maybe you don't feel as safe as you should. And so there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing in the background. I'm going to be taking a lot of the cues um, from the task force, from agents. I was in meetings yesterday, multiple meetings, and a number of different things came up in terms of ways that we need to be addressing this. And I don't want to say that this is a natural course for a business, because a lot of these things should have been addressed before today. However, as we've got larger, we do need to continually go back and fix the things that we should have fixed in the past, and fix them as we continue to scale and grow. So it's for anybody who was a victim, we want to make sure that you're you have some way to address inside of EXP, so that you can get some resolution of some sort without resulting, having to go to the legal system. But also just recognize that we're continuing to grow and continue to build out a lot of this stuff as we continue to scale and to grow. So I wish this was a better conversation today. Not every conversation is going to be, everything's going great, this is what you need to do next. Here's how you get your head on straight. Today, in my opinion, these types of subjects are important to process the emotional context that these things bring to light, because these things do happen, and these things shouldn't happen. And so for whatever we can do to support agents, women, those who may be marginalized in some capacity in the real estate industry, just want you to know that we, myself personally, the board, the leadership team in general, and I know thousands and thousands, and the majority of our agents and brokers feel exactly the same way. What can we do to make this the best, safest real estate brokerage on the planet? And that's our commitment today. So with that, maybe I'll turn that back over to you, Russ. Apologize that obviously that you're that this is you got to follow and then talk about some of the other stuff, but obviously an important and solemn day, really, when any of this stuff we have to deal with and we should deal with. So.
Well, Glenn, I will say this from my heart. I couldn't be any more proud of you for standing up here today and addressing it straight on. I know a number of people I've worked with in the past and around in the past would have found somebody else to do that. You've taken on some of the hard stuff. And I think there's an opportunity here for EXP to actually become substantially better. We don't know what we don't know until we find out we don't know. And this one just sucks. It's no fun for anybody. But I want to, how do we come out of this bigger, better, stronger, and be an industry leader on making sure women feel safe? I want to make sure we do that. You want to make sure we do that. And everybody around us in the leadership group, we're like, how do we change this? This is not the norm in the business, right? Go to every one of these events. Every one of these companies has very similar issues for women. So let's be an industry leader. Again, we have the opportunity to be an industry leader on something and blaze a new trail. So thank you for standing up. Proud of you.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks, everyone.
All right. So this is one of those fun moments in life when you just got to take a step forward, right? Take a step forward. All right. So, all right. Next up, drop in the slide. We have EXP Shareholder Summit. This is going to be our first probably big time to implement some of the new stuff to make sure people feel safe in all EXP environments. So with that being said, did you know that you can actually add to your Shareholder Summit registration somebody else? You can invite a non-EXP agent to come to the event for free. cool part is it's going to be a safe one. We're going to ensure that, make sure everybody's good. Introducing the Explore Pass. So if you guys haven't heard about the Explore Pass is essentially basically a free ticket for any non-EXP agent to come to the summit on the 17th through the 20th of May in Orlando. But they must be invited and hosted by an EXP agent. So don't just give somebody a ticket and let them come by themselves. Okay. So they must be hosted by an EXP agent. If you're already registered, don't worry. You can add this at any time. You say, hey, I got somebody I want to bring along. You can add it to your pass at any time. You can find instructions in Workplace on exactly how to do that. And the cool part is if you register now and you think you're going to bring somebody, you don't even have to register that. You can also name them at a later time. So these Explore Passes are limited, so you want to make sure you set aside one for yourself today as soon as you can, okay? So today we've got this kind of interesting. I've got a guy named Alex Anderud. Alex is a guy that does stuff with DISC assessment, and his way of talking about it, working with it, and understanding it, and helping me understand it is absolutely priceless. I love this guy. He's a ton of fun to goof around with. Alex Anderud, jump on in here, brother.
Hey, how you doing, Russ?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So, DISC. So there's a lot of people that aren't in leadership that don't even know what that is. They've heard the words and they're like, "Oh, that guy's high D," or that one's a big S, or low C.
Big D. That's what you hear often.
Is there a pill for this stuff? Right? Like, if you're experiencing low S, there's got to be something to fix this, right?
Oh, it's so funny. In the early 1920s, there was a division in the psychological world where basically a whole majority of the psychological community started trying to study abnormal psychology. They were looking at why are people weird and how do we fix them? And there was a small group of people who were trying to understand normal people. And they thought that there was as much to gain by studying normal people. And one of the guys' name was William Marston. And he created this concept that we now know as DISC that looks at behavior along 4 different spectrums. So that's where it comes from. That's what it is. DISC is an assessment that helps you understand how people tend to behave. It doesn't measure who you are, what you do. It just looks at your behavioral tendencies.
Yeah, which is interesting because we've had conversation about this a couple times, and it's always been like, I took a DISC test when I was 28 years old, and I was 98D, 98I, and I was 42S, and like, I'm stuck there.
It's interesting. So like I said, the original creation of DISC was used to measure behavioral tendencies.
Yeah.
And so when I first started learning, all of the big trainers out there, I mean, I've taken the John Maxwell certification, I've taken Cardone, I've taken all these different companies' trainings. And in them, one of the things that's universal or that I see quite frequently is the DISC trainer telling you that your DISC profile is fixed. Once you take it, that's who you are. But DISC measures behavior. And behavior changes. So how can a tool that measures something that changed be fixed? I just thought it was stupid. I'm like, I don't understand this. And so that's how I started. Actually, the company is You Don't Know DISC. And how I came up with You Don't Know DISC was I talked to people and they're like, oh yeah, I know DISC. I'm like, is it fixed? They're like, yeah. And then I do that explanation. They're like, shit, I don't know DISC. I go, right. Let's start there and let's talk about the spectrums because you're all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is simple because the assessment is measuring behavior and your behavior changes. And listen, I am not the same guy I was when I was 20. I'm not the same guy I was when I was 35. I'm not the same guy as when I was 45.
You're not the same guy you were 2 weeks ago. You're constantly evolving and growing and learning and adapting, and you put yourself into environments. Your environment changes you. Russ, you're always changing. You could have a bad day in a moment, and you're going to behave differently in that moment. So understanding who you are and the person you're talking to, the DISC assessment is great as like a last known address, but really understanding the language of it allows you to understand the spectrum. So I can go, Russ, who are you today? Where are you right now?
Yeah. So why is this important?
Communication. You see, everybody tends to communicate in the way that they like to be communicated with. And so learning how other people behave, other tendencies, it helps you understand why you do what you do, why you say what you say, but it also helps you build relationships. So let's say you're working on a listing presentation and you've got 2 different people sitting across from you. You've got one person who's like, let's go. We got to get this thing. We got to move. And the other person's like, hey, honey, let's slow down. Let's make sure we're making the right decision. And it's like, okay, so I've got these 2 people. How do I do that? If you don't have a language to understand, okay, so where are these 2 people on a spectrum and how do I connect these 2 and get them working together so that the group of us can move forward and get results? That's the benefit of this stuff is it's the more you understand, the more fluid and adaptable you become to get better results.
Yeah. So I would say, so step one is probably
you.
knowing yourself, right? Like figure
Step
out who
one,
I am.
step one is know you. Step
Yeah.
two is know the spectrum. Step three is know other people. So the
There you
first step is to understand who you are. And as you understand who you are,
Yeah.
the way that we construct reality, the way that we create the world around us, as a kid, you learn what something is, but in order to know what something is, you have to know what it's not. So if you learn you also learn not you, which gives you that spectrum. It gives you the ability to understand the spectrum. So the first thing is know you. Second thing, know spectrums. And as you know the spectrum, you start to see where other people are along that spectrum, which is how you get to know other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does, because I mean, the perspective is, you know, you the best, right? And I think a lot of people take the disc assessment the first time and they're like, huh, so that looks a lot like, and my wife does this, right? And she's like, well, you know, that one line right there is not accurate. I'm like, it's not a tarot card telling you, like, it's not
The
a map.
assessment, it's 60 to 80% accurate. It's 60 to 80. But here's the thing is right now you're operating at about 20 because you don't have a language, you don't have anything in front of you to look at.
Right.
So going from 20 to 80 is a huge jump, and being able to get a lot of insight is valuable.
20 to 30 is a huge jump, right? Because it's helping understanding yourself and understanding others. I love what you said, though, is like knowing what you are and also knowing what you're not. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm high D. You're also low D. Right?
You are.
So when you're like, high D does this, a person that's high D is also not low D, and a not low D person does this. Or won't do this, right? So knowing the things I will do and the things I won't do. So I'm like, I'm fighting stuff all the time. And I'm like, why am I fighting this? I should just go along. And I'm like, well, but like low D people are not agreeable, typically. Or high D people are not as agreeable, or they are less likely to be agreeable. Like, I'm going to do my thing, go my way, right?
It's not even that they're not agreeable. You see, this is the thing, is that disc has so many, like, this is why I actually like it's the you don't know disc, is because there's so many things that are put on there. The not agreeable, where that comes from. It's true. A lot of high Ds are not agreeable. And the reason why is they're focused on results. And if they feel their way is going to get better results than what you're saying, they're not going to agree with you, and they're not going to just go along with it. But it's not that they're not agreeable. It's that they're focused on results. If you agree, if you have an idea that they see as valuable to get results, they'll agree with you. They're just not going to get in they don't want you getting in their way of moving forward. And so, like, an example of what you were just talking about, Russ, a low I personality. The I category looks at how you interact with people. I had an agent who had a low I, which means they were more introverted. They prefer to reflect. They listen they engage with people by listening, and they're getting taught scripts and processes and way to go out, and they're not being successful. And it's like, okay, but why not just teach them to ask better questions so that they can actually be themselves and listen? And that's how they get success.
Right. So once you learn what you are really and what your tendency is, I think if you look at happiness, because I'm reading a book right now called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
No, not yet.
Lord, I'll send you a copy of it. It'll blow your mind, right? And the whole thing is like the science of happiness. And I think when you're looking at the science of happiness, there's so many times we're looking at our list of stuff of who we are and what we are. And you're like, why am I so frustrated all the time? Because you're not in your wheelhouse following your most likely way and your most enjoyable way and your most natural way. You're doing all the things. Like for me, door knocking, calling expireds, calling all of that stuff. I'm really good at it, but I hated it. So like, so how do I work around that? But knowing that when I'm in my sweet spot, life is way more fun.
Well, there's two different pieces. So give me just a little bit of time to explain these two pieces. First off, weakness isn't real. Weakness is created by making your success dependent upon something you suck at. You see, my ability to shoot a 3-point basket isn't a weakness until I'm in a until I'm playing a basketball game. At that point, it's just something I suck at and I don't do. So we make weakness in our lives. So like, for instance, that low I personality, they're scripting and they're socializing. It was a weakness because they were trying to make their success dependent upon their ability to go talk to people. Right. So change your environment so that you can win by making your success dependent upon what you're good at, and your weaknesses are mitigated by people, process, habit, or choice. So you want to mitigate your weakness by people, process, habit, or choice. And what that means is that you either have someone else do it for you, you have a process that you're following that makes it so you can do it, you develop the habit of doing it so you no longer have to think about it, which gets it out of your conscious mind, or you just choose to do it and you let go of the baggage and you're just going to do it and develop it as a skill. So that's how you get out of that cycle. So that's the first piece, is recognizing weakness isn't real and you create it. And that's how you get around that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of people that are like, I just don't want to do that. And I'm like, then don't. Like, find your way of doing it the way that works best for you and the way that's most enjoyable for you. You don't have to, like, people say, but you got to go right. You know, you could do 3 lefts and you're still going right.
Right. But it'll take longer, right? But at least you'll do it.
Yes. Agreed. It's standing frozen. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, will you do this though? It's like, and again, this comes down to knowing me, knowing and understanding myself first. It makes it a lot easier for me to go, okay, now that I know me, it's not good or bad. It's only what I attach to it that's good or bad. It's just, this is the way I am. So let's build an environment where I'm more likely to be successful because I'm doing the stuff that I'm willing to do.
Right, exactly. There's a company called WiseHire, which a lot of real estate companies have heard of or used. WiseHire was founded by a guy named Jay Niblick. Jay Niblick, absolutely amazing dude. He actually developed an assessment called the Advanced Insight Assessment. It's a company called Intermetrics, which he also uses, or he also owns. Intermetrics is the profiles that WiseHire uses. They use something called the DISC Plus. I use one called the Advanced Insight. It gives you 3 instead of 2 assessments.
Okay, hold on a second. Just stop on that one. Say that again. You got the assessment is like, instead of doing just DISC, he's got his thing. And
the assessment that I use, it's DISC, which measures behavioral tendencies.
Right.
It's values, which are intrinsic motivators. It looks at why you're motivated to do what you do. And then it's a formal axiology report called the Attribute Index. Attribute Index looks at how you value and filter information. It looks at, are you better at defining things, comparing things, or distinguishing? What makes something unique and different? So it looks at these 3 different spectrums to help you understand how you see. So are you really good at understanding the big picture, abstract, what needs to be done? Or if something was one off, can you go, oh, I know exactly what to do in this situation? And it helps you understand that. So these 3 assessments, Jay Niblick created, and in the early 2000s, he ran a study called the Genius Study. And this is the next piece I wanted to talk about. It's the second piece. The Genius Study was conducted in the early 2000s, over almost 200,000 participants, 23 countries. It had 75 PhDs working on the study. And what they were looking at is what makes somebody successful.
Right.
And they were looking at natural talents, and they ran this, and they had 5 different levels. They had below average, average, above average, excellent, and genius level. And what they found was there was no statistical correlation between genius level performance in any particular job and a set of skills, a set of natural talents that they had. But what they found was that every single person who was genius level had 2 acquired skills. And I want to write these 2 down. The 2 were self-awareness, which goes back to know yourself. It's knowing who you are. What are your strengths and your weaknesses? And the second goes back to what we just talked about, weakness, is they created an environment. They had authenticity. The second thing is authenticity. They created an environment where their success was dependent upon themselves, what they were good at, and their weaknesses were mitigated by people, process, habit, or choice. So either they accidentally found themselves in an environment where they just happened to be successful by being themselves, or they intentionally created an environment where they got to be themselves. But authenticity is what allowed them to thrive at the genius level. And so those 2 skills, knowing who you are and creating an environment where you can be you, that's how people achieve that next level of performance.
See, that is it's brilliant on a bunch of different levels. We're talking about genius. That's brilliant. Go figure.
Right.
It's really interesting when you pull it back out. Like the commonalities between the people that are really excelling at anything were the fact that they were self-aware, which is their ability to say, here's what I do well, here's what I don't do well. Here's what I should let other people do instead of trying to do everything, which, by the way, realtor problem 1 is like, I am the chief chef, bottle washer, floor sweeper, and all that. Like there are some things I'm not good at. I hate paperwork. I'm not a fan of technology. So knowing that and being okay with that, and then saying, okay, I can mitigate that. Let somebody else do that. Let me free to be myself, my authentic me, which is how I've moved up through leadership. I don't mire myself down in spreadsheets.
And it's so small. It's the small changes. So this assessment, the Advanced Insight Assessment, with these 3 different aspects, your behavioral tendencies, your intrinsic motivators, and understanding how you filter information, I can go through and create your Enneagram profile. I can create your strength finders. I can create, because this gives you enough information, because all of the psychometrics are self-evaluated and they're based upon very similar things, but they all tell you something different. But this spectrum, if you use these three, you can really get a high grasp of all of the different assessments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because like, here's what you are. And then why am I this way? Because it's like, what's behind that, right? It's like, in certain situations, I behave certain way. And why is that? And everybody's like, well, when I was a kid, my dad did, and my mom. Well, that's part of it, right? Because it's part of your training and part of your habits and so forth that you've developed. But it's also like, what is valuable to you? I'm going to do things that are valuable to me way more than doing things that are not valuable to me, right?
Exactly. And the more you understand, so this is understanding yourself. And then you start to understand the spectrums. You learn ways to communicate, ways to be able to engage with other people, which makes you more effective with your clients, makes you more effective recruiting, makes you more effective building a team.
Yeah.
And as you start to develop that, you start to understand how every other person operates. You start to be able to step into other people's world, which really, the bottom line is the most valuable asset one can develop is their social capital. And their social capital is developed by increasing your skill of influence and communication.
Right.
Influence and communication come down to leadership, adaptability, and recognizing who other people are so that you can create a container where they feel safe.
I've seen a couple of examples of that this week with a number of different meetings and so forth and so on. And the communication styles not matching, and somebody saying one thing one way when I know full well the other person's interpreting it completely different because of who they are, right?
Exactly.
That's a source of a lot of strife for me to be like, well, but to me, it's true, right? So we had a conversation the other day and you said, everybody's right.
Yes. What I do is I look at, so there's a couple of different pieces. So I'll go through some quick things. First off, everyone who's out there watching this right here, how do you know it's real? The most time people go, I can see it. Okay. Optical nerve into the brain, touch it, electromagnetic disbursement of energy, you're not actually touching it, process it into the brain, hallucinate, you're feeling it. But even if everyone agrees with me, this is real. The only way I know they agree with me is because I'm observing it, which is happening in my head. Right. Which doesn't mean that there isn't fact, but it means everybody has a different reality. Reality isn't fact. Reality is perception. Yeah. So in that model, if you truly understand that everyone has their own perception, that means that if two people have a conflicting point of view, there is different perceptions which may be making somebody right or wrong. So I'm going to do the whole 8+8 thing, Russ. So if you write down on the board the equation 8 + 8 = 91.
I have a piece of paper.
Cool. Write a piece of paper. If you write 8 + 8 = 91, everyone who's listening, if you got a piece of paper, if you write down 8 + 8 = 91, and you look at that piece of paper, you're going to say the equation is wrong. So you're looking at that, you see 8 + 8 = 91, that equation is wrong. And I look at it, I'm sitting across the table from you, and I go, no, it's right. And you go, wait, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. And I go, here, let me show you. 16 = 8 + 8. You see, you who say the equation is wrong are correct. Me or you who say it's right is correct. Whatever. You said it was wrong. You're right.
You say.
I said it was wrong, or said it was right. I was right. We have conflicting points of view, but we were both correct. Yeah. So what I have you do is I have you draw a dot and a circle around that dot and basically say that you are in the center of that circle. That circle is your sphere of influence, the people you care about, the people you're connected with, the people you're working with. If you assume everyone in that circle is right, and you have some different point of view than they do, it means that there's something you're missing, which means every conversation, instead of it being a challenge, becomes curiosity. Help me understand what I'm not seeing.
I think that's a question I ask a lot more now, which is help me understand. Because like there's a lot of perspectives on a lot of different things this week. And there's times when I'm like, I don't understand. Please help me understand. It's not because I'm ignorant. It's not because I'm drawing conclusion. It's not because I'm a certain way. It's just like, I'm just telling you, I just don't get it. Explain it to me. And sometimes it's explained and I'm like, I still don't get it because from my perspective, I can't see it. Right.
That's where a lot of like what I'm working with my teams, what I've done. So I've worked with like Tina Call, for instance. Tina Call is somebody I've done a lot of work with.
I love her.
And we run profiles for her entire organization. Yep. And so when she has a question or somebody on our leadership team has a question, we can pull up their profile and go, okay, what's going on with them? They have some discussions like, okay, so if you change your communication, you do this, this, and this, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what's going on. Just those slight understanding, like that goes back to number 2, know the spectrums. The more you can understand and put language to things, the better it is to go, okay, I can see why they're doing what they're doing. It makes sense. I don't agree with it. So if I need to create a change, how do I communicate the change in a way that they can hear it, receive it, and adapt to what I need them to do?
Right. So, it's kind of funny because like, you ever tried on somebody else's sunglasses? You're like, I'm looking at the same thing, and they're like, you can't see that? And I'm like, look, put your oh, I'm looking at the same thing, but I didn't have polarized sunglasses. They did. I'm looking at it going, I couldn't see that at all. I'm looking at the same thing, but I couldn't see it. I put on their polarized sunglasses. I can see what they see now. That's the same process right here.
Yep.
You're welcome to use that if you want.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to help you once in a while.
You help me all the time, Russ. It's so much fun.
I love it, brother. All right. So last thing.
Yes.
Last thing that's important because we've got like 2 minutes left. Okay. Last thing. Everybody's like, worship the high D. I'm a high D. The high I, right? Can you be successful with any one of these?
Yes. Any profile can be successful. A lot of people tote the high D, high I personality type, especially in the real estate and in the sales world. And what's interesting is that I've seen some statistics that show that people who have the high D personality actually get more sales. And it's awesome. It's because they're driven and they're focused and they push. They also get less referrals because they're driven, they're focused, and they push.
Right.
And so the high I personality, social, outgoing, low I, ask better questions, be able to get them to listen. The high S personality, they're not really good at driving for results. Cool. Then have a consistent follow-up system and engage with people and build those long-term relationships and referrals. Every profile can be successful if you learn how to tweak the system. And if you can get just a little bit of slight changes, I have seen top performers in real estate with every single profile combination. Yes. I have seen high C's, high I's, high S's, high D's. You have in the EXP world alphas that match every different disc type. You have alphas that are successful.
Yes, agreed. I agree 100%. So, Alex, I know there's a couple of links. We prepped the team in the back for a couple of links. So I'm sure they're going to post those. You have a free assessment. And by the way, you got the assessment with the disc, the values, and the attributes, which is pretty cool. You can jump on Alex's link there and do the assessment. And if you want more from Alex, how do we get more from you?
So you can follow me at my disc guy on Instagram, or you can hit me up, just message me, DM me on Instagram. Happy to connect with you guys there. Also, if you want to find out more information, I do trainings, 5 to 10 trainings every month. I've got a program I just launched called our Professional Development Network, and it's just youdon'tknowdisc.com/PDN. And so Instagram, my disc guy is probably the best way to get a hold with me. Ask me questions. If you want any more info, I can connect you to either resources or books or ideas, whatever you need. Just reach out and let me know.
Fantastic. I know you really dig into the core of stuff and people and the ability to enhance their communication. I've seen it. I watched it. I saw you having a conversation with Tina Call and Kevin live. That was how I saw you the first time. I'm like, dang, I like this guy.
That was fun. I got to break down how the relationship and dynamic worked. It was a podcast that it was really fun.
My gosh, it was mind-boggling. I was riveted to this thing. I'm like, I gotta have you talk to me and my wife and help us understand. I've been married 28 years and we still don't understand each other half the time. So welcome to the real world.
It is worth it. It doesn't cost you anything. You go in, fill it out. It takes about 20 minutes to fill out, and you'll get a 25-page plus report. Totally worth it.
There you go. Absolutely. So you guys have the links in either chats or comment, chat in world, comments in YouTube. That's how you can see Alex assessment, do the free assessment. Alex, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it a bunch. You're the best.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Russ. Take care. Bye for now, guys.
Awesome. All right. There you go. Alex Anderud. If you guys want more of that guy, I know every time I hear him talk, I'm like, gosh, I got stuff to learn about me, right? And about others and how to communicate with others, because I just kind of do my Russ thing. And that doesn't work for everybody. I get that. So I'm trying to be a better me. So welcome to the club here. So last up today, I've got Frank Panunto. Frank Panunto's East Coast Regional Director of Growth. This is my counterpart on the east side of the country. Not only is he smarter than me and better looking than me, he's somebody I love. Frank Panunto.
I mean, what an intro. I'm going to replay that and have my wife watch it just in case, because I'm not sure that message gets across. Hey, it's good to have the Frank and Bean show back together. It's been a while, buddy.
You know, the fun part is I know I can give you a hard time coming in, And you're fine with it.
And I'm going to give it back to you going out. Don't worry about it.
I love it. I love
So
it.
before we get started, there are two major shout outs I want to give. And the first one is to you, my friend. I got to tell you that these Friday shows are phenomenal and you do an exceptional job with them. They're so informative. And I mean it, Russ. You are fantastic. I mean, the information is fabulous. And thank you on behalf of everybody watching. What you do every week is really, really good. And thank you for that, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm blessed to be able to do it. I really am.
Great, man.
This is a lot of fun for me. If you can't tell, I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I can tell. So I'm sitting here in the Alloy Hotel in King of Prussia area, just outside of Philadelphia. The regional rallies are getting ready to kick off, and the very first one is going to be right here, just outside of Philadelphia. That I'm going to be the MC. So I'm actually in this beautiful room, just kind of walking through it to get the feel of it, to make sure everything's ready, and that's where I'm coming to you today from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, a lot of people are starting to see the ads and the marketing going out for the regional. So there's probably a regional reasonably close to you guys. Most of them are going to go on the week of March 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yep. I know the Northeast one is going to be a little bit after that. So we've got our people getting together, show them some love, inspire them, talk about production, recognize production. That's what that's all about. So good. I'm glad you're there. Hope that place works for you. That'll be cool. All right, Frank, EXP Explained. Come on, talk to me. What's going on with this?
So let's talk about that. And the second shout out I need to give is to our boy, Randy Highsmith. I got to tell you, one of the most creative guys, super smart. I mean, he gets so much credit for this. Randy is the man. So if you haven't gotten the chance to meet him, or when you do see him, give him a pat on the back. The guy is phenomenal. So the production company and myself have been working on a new series of EXP Explained videos. And there's going to be a bunch of them. But right now, the first one just launched. It just came out on Wednesday. It's on a brand new platform. So if you want to see it, all you have to do is go to exprealty.ewebinar.com. That's exprealty.ewebinar.com. And that runs daily, 2 p.m. Eastern. You see it here, 11 a.m. Pacific time, but it also runs Mountain time. So really, Russ, it's running 9 times a day. And I got to tell you something. The feedback so far has been incredible. We have 3 appointments, just based off of Wednesday alone, 3 appointments already. People are calling, and we just got one. Randy just gave me a note before I jumped on that someone from India is wanting to speak to us about growing a whole business in India. So
fantastic.
It's going to be a great tool for our agents to use. When they're talking to somebody, if they want to send it out, that's great. Or just invite people to watch it. You don't have to be in the world anymore to watch it. It's out there. Now it's out there. And again, there's going to be a series of these. So we're going to do some that are a little more humorous, a little bit shorter, and some, but the content will always be the same. It's going to be fun.
Good. That sounds like a good time. Well, just like we were just talking about with the disc, right? Different personality types want to see information put forward in a different manner. Some people want to be fast and furious, just make it fun, have it enjoyable, and then we'll move forward. Others are like, well, Frank, I want the details, man. Don't leave out the details. Me, I'm just like, I just want to have a good time. If it makes sense, let's roll.
Well, we're going to have some fun. I know you and I are going to do one together in Cabo, along with some of the other growth team. And this is always going to be a different perspective, a different twist on it, but they're always going to be fun.
So we'll do the EXP Explained flip-flop edition.
Yeah. The tropical edition. Yeah.
You take the flip-flop off and slap you around.
Brent will be tiptoeing behind us in the back. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I always love those videos of like that one mama style takes her flip-flop off and she can whack a person from 400 feet away with it.
Yeah.
We'll do that version and have some fun with it. Good. Frank, sure. I've heard great reviews of the EXP Explained. I'm proud of you. You've done a great job with that. You grabbed the bull by the horns and really got something going. And here's a cool part. This is the first iteration. It's going to keep getting better and better and better. And I love what you said. This is the ability for people to access EXP Explained outside of EXP World, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, and there's 2 other pieces to it, Russ. There's actually a whole chat box on the side, so people can ask. We're asking them questions. Number one, and the link to the Join app is actually on there as well, so it's very interactive that way. Nice. So, Russ, if you're sending people to watch it, we're collecting the information. How did you get there? Who are you speaking to from EXP? So you don't need to worry about that. Everything's being collected. We have their email addresses, we have their phone numbers, and all we're doing is having them watch, and then the information will be spit back to you. But we are collecting everything, where before, when it was in the world, you didn't know who was watching.
Yeah.
But now with this new platform that Randy put together with us, it's awesome. Really, really good.
That's fantastic. I think, when you look at how do we convert, right? It takes typically 10 touches plus or minus. In my history in the past, plus or minus 10 touches for each person that we hired. So like that could be one touch, but now you've got their information. So there could be value adds afterwards and help increase that close rate, because each unique person comes in with something unique, right?
Yeah, well, it was really cool. So the first day, we had 140, I think it was 140 registrations, and 119 actually clicked on, because some people can watch it at different times, right? You don't have to watch it at that time. Sure. 119 people, and immediately when they clicked on it, they watched it, and they watched the whole video. So you're talking about a retention rate. You talk about getting people's attention. It's working. So this is awesome, and we're excited about it. We invite everybody to jump on it anytime you can. Again, exprealty.ewebinar.com. Every day, 7 days a week, running 9 times a day. Send your people, use the video, whatever we can do to help you. Russ and I are always here for you guys.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Always great to have you here. So thank you very much for that. Love it. All right. So we have, let's throw up the NPS Net Promoter Score. So here is the QR code for Net Promoter Score. This is where we actually get feedback from you guys on how we're doing and what we're doing, what you like, what you don't like, and so forth and so on. It's rated from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. If you love what we're doing, give us a good rating. If you've got something we need to work on a little bit for you, or something you like to see a little bit different, don't hesitate to put that in there also, right? Give us a score that you think is fair, and let's roll with that. So NPS score, open your phone, click on the QR code, give us some of your feedback, and go. This has been an interesting day for Friday Fire. Got a lot of cool stuff going, a lot of cool different directions. I love the fact that you've got the first know me, second you do know the spectrum of what's available out there, and then number 3, you get to know and learn how to communicate with other people. That is priceless, being able to have that in your repertoire. Also, I love one of my favorite parts is everybody in your sphere is right. If you don't agree with them, there's a reason that there's some difference there, and start asking questions. Right? Stop doing the judgment. Start asking questions. How do I understand this? I don't understand this. Help me understand this. And what you'll find is you have way better relationships, way better communication all the way across the board. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for having the QR code up there. I appreciate that. So that is all for Friday Fire today. And I would like you guys to stay tuned for iConversations. This is where we have some of our top producing agents nationally that give back to the company. They're going to be talking about what they do, how they do it, why they do it, where they do it. If you want to see what people are doing 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 sales, I see Lisa Parento on there. Danielle, awesome. Love that. They're going to have great stuff to help you take your business to the next level. Stay tuned for iConversations. My name is Russ Lagan. I will see you next Friday, 11 a.m. Bye-bye.